back here on HQ Spotlight. The college football playoff desperation is really all over this matchup. Vols hosting the Sooners on Saturday night. Both of these teams are 6-2, but Tennessee has yet to beat a ranked opponent this season, and OU's 2 losses have come in their last 3 games. That is what I mean when I say desperation. So let's welcome in Bud Elliot of the Cover 3 podcast to help us break this one down. And we start with the Sooners defense. They were averaging less than 10 points allowed per game before they played Ole Miss. Then they gave up 3 times that. Now they have to play the number 2 scoring offense in the country in Tennessee. So Bud, where do they start in terms of improvement?
Yeah, Emily, I think if you look at this, I still think Oklahoma is a really good defense. Lane Kiffin got them a bit as a play caller over the weekend. I thought Chambliss played really well. OU has some nice receivers, Ole Miss has some nice receivers. But honestly, Oklahoma has so many good defensive linemen that in this matchup, has Tennessee seen a real pass rush yet? Georgia is historically down compared to Kirby Smart's normal standards of pass rush. Bama this year has had quite a few pass rush issues. I'm curious to see how Tennessee's offensive line holds up against an OU defensive line, which might be the best in the country.
Yeah, and the 2 defensive lines that you mentioned were the 2 losses that Tennessee took this season, so they didn't do all right against those defenses. But as you mentioned, Oklahoma under Brent Venables has historically been pretty solid on the defensive end. Both of these teams, though, are in the playoff race with just 2 losses. But if you had to pick, maybe who needs this win more to stay alive based on what they've got the rest of the way?
I think this is an elimination game for both. I really don't see much of a case for either team sitting at 3 losses. If you're Tennessee, I don't think you need this quite as much, just because this was supposed to be a bit of a reset year. Whereas for Oklahoma, there was a lot of pressure on Brent Venables for his job coming into the new year with the new athletic director, the new general manager running the program. Obviously, they went all in with the portal to go and get John Mateer, who has been, I think, probably a disappointment down the stretch here as teams keep kind of figuring out his kind of limitations reading a defense. So I'm going to say the pressure's a little bit more on Oklahoma.
On Oklahoma. Okay, good to know. When we're talking about matchups in this game, your player to watch for Tennessee is their quarterback, Joey Aguilar, which is pretty obvious. Quarterback, very important to winning a football game. But in this one in particular, what do the Vols need out of him?
So I think they need just kind of taking care of the football. There's not a lot of throws that Joey Aguilar doesn't seem to like to make, and many times he's pretty justified throwing up to a guy like Chris Brazzell. But at the same time, Brent Venables is notorious for baiting guys into interceptions. I know they had one they dropped against Chambliss over the weekend. You've seen it throughout his career. There's the infamous national title where Clemson just completely fooled Tua there in that 2017 matchup out there in San Francisco for the national title. So, how many throws can Oklahoma's defense bait Aguilar into? Can the offensive coaching staff for Tennessee help to simplify things for him to where he sees it clearly and he doesn't throw those cookies to that OU defense?
You mentioned Chris Brazzell. He's one of those guys that you can just kind of throw the ball up to, and it's not a 50-50. It's a maybe 80-20 with him. But he's not someone who's always mentioned among the top wide receivers in the game. But why is he a name that we need to know nationally and in this game?
Emily, it's a great question. I think part of it is probably the scheme that Tennessee runs, right? You plug in almost any receiver there, they usually get some nice production. But Chris is a kid that we've known had great physical ability even before he was at Tennessee, and it seems like it's finally coming together and clicking for him. And physically, there are not a lot of guys in the country who have his skill set. Now he's kind of refined his game a little bit. As you mentioned, he is going up and winning those 80-20 balls, so to speak. So, he's one of the top receivers in the country, and if people don't know him yet, they really should.
So we talked OU defense, Tennessee offense. How about this OU offense? It seems like the easy thing to say is that since John Mateer came back from that hand injury, he has not been the same. But how do you see it?
So in talking to other coaches in the league, I think they saw things against Auburn and Michigan, which were 2 wins for Oklahoma, that were kind of, I think, encouraging if you had to play Mateer. There are a lot of throws that Oklahoma schemes open. I think they do a great job play calling that Mateer is just either not seeing or not seeing early enough to pull the trigger on. And since then, everybody's kind of playing the same style of defense against John Mateer, and he is continually not seeing and hitting these open throws. There were probably 30 or 40 points to be scored on Ole Miss by OU if he identifies those open guys and hits them, but he's just not seeing it really well right now. So I'd expect more of that plan from Tennessee.
What are some keys to victory for Oklahoma if they want to come away with a road win?
think you have to find a way to create some explosive plays. You have two freshman tackles playing in this game, and Tennessee, does have a very nice pass rush. You're playing in Neyland. That's probably going to be pretty difficult. So again, avoiding turnovers, avoiding like the just catastrophe plays on offense, I think is likely the key for both teams in a game that I don't project to be super high scoring.
And this Tennessee defense has been very opportunistic when it comes to finding the football and then scoring. So how about for the Vols? What's the key to victory for them?
I think it's getting after Mateer, making sure that you actually make him be consistent and make sure that you're not allowing just the wide open deep shots. He does seem to see those. It's sort of some of the middle of the field stuff that he doesn't necessarily see very well in the progression. So again, I think you want to just continue to dare him to see if he actually can have the light come on and beat you in the middle of the field. If not, like, leave that thing wide open. Make sure you account for his legs. He is an excellent runner as well. And see if you can get pressure without too much blitzing on those young tackles.
All right, Vegas likes the home team here, but just barely, about 3.5-point spread in this one in favor of the Vols. What's your game prediction?
I do think Oklahoma has a pretty good shot here. I have OU winning a very tight, low-scoring game, but it's really a bit of a coin flip in one of the matchups this week, and I'm really excited to watch.
Well, I certainly am excited to watch it as well. But Elliot, thank you so much for breaking that down for us. And you can check out Bud on the Cover 3 podcast. The Upon Further Review episode dropped today. Yesterday, you had an emergency pod detailing the end of the Brian Kelly era at LSU. So check it out wherever you find your podcasts.